Good morning, and welcome to this year's Defense Logistics Agency Hall of Fame induction ceremony. My name is Kathy Rem. I'm the Communications Manager for DLA Human Resources and your MC for today's ceremony. Please rise for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the presentation of the colors by the Military District of Washington Color Guard, the singing of our national anthem by Petty Officer Kevin Ulf of the Coast Guard Honor Guard, and the invocation by DLA Chaplain Colonel Robert Wishman. Present the colors.
Out, forward, out. Colors, halt, halt, present, oh. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Halt, right shoulder, oh. Hold, sir, on.
Let us pray. Almighty God, you are the one that forms the paths of men and women. You establish us according to your purposes. You use us in ways that your name might be exalted and glorified. Lord, be with us this morning for the Defense Logistics Agency 2018 Hall of Fame ceremony. We give thanks for this year's inductees, individuals who have helped transform this organization and promote permanent positive change for future generations. Use the contributions of the inductees to lead and inspire future leaders to take us to the next level. And Lord, lead us as we honor this year's inductees, their families and friends. And thank you for all that have made this work a success today. Bless all who are in attendance, and bless and protect America's sons and daughters who are deployed in the defense of freedom across the world this day. In your strong name we pray. Amen.
Please be seated. A special welcome to Lieutenant General Darrell K. Williams, Director of the Defense Logistics Agency, and his wife Myra, Mr. Ted Case, DLA Vice Director, Command Master Chief Sean Bromstedt, DLA Senior Enlisted Leader, our Hall of Fame inductees, their family members and friends, past Hall of Fame inductees, current and former DLA senior leaders, and employees of the Defense Logistics Agency. Today, we honor 5 former members of the DLA team who demonstrate unique and enduring contributions in support of our mission. Their contributions helped shape DLA into America's premier combat logistics support agency, a mission that we all proudly execute today. They are true representatives of the DLA spirit, and it is our distinct privilege to honor them today. This year's inductees are Ms. Lily Mae Brown, Ms. Donna L. Davis, Major General Robert C. Gaskill, U.S. Army retired, Mr. Larry M. Glasgow, and General Gustav F. Perna, U.S. Army. The inductees here today will each be presented with a medal and a commemorative plaque. In addition, they will receive a congratulatory letter from the DLA director, a DLA Hall of Fame lapel pin, and director's coin. And each inductee's spouse or family member will also receive a certificate of appreciation. Before we begin the formal inductions, please join me in watching a special presentation highlighting the lives and careers of this year's Hall of Fame class. host for today's ceremony, Lieutenant General Williams, directs an organization responsible for providing a variety of logistics, acquisition, and technical services to the military services and other federal agencies in peace and war. This worldwide mission is performed by 27,000 military and civilian logistics professionals. Please welcome the DLA Director, Lieutenant General Williams.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And I would just like to start out again by just giving all of our inductees that we'll recognize throughout the ceremony, just give them one more round of applause. Thank you very much. Awesome. And so again, welcome to the 2018 DLA Hall of Fame ceremony. You know, I've long felt that you can tell the character and the culture of an organization by the way that it recognizes its people. And there's no one who embodies the essence of DLA than the former 5 DLA employees that we will induct into the Hall of Fame today. And so many of you who all are football fans, it's getting close to football season, and you know that the National Football League will kick off its 2018-2019 football season in the next few weeks with the Hall of Fame induction ceremony and its annual Hall of Fame football game. And no doubt the players that they will induct into this year's Hall of Fame will have made significant contributions to their respective football teams. However, I would suggest that their accomplishments will pale in comparison to the importance of the accomplishments of our DLA Hall of Famers and their support to our men and women in uniform and the defense of our nation. Our Hall of Famers are trailblazers, they are innovators, and they're people who have pioneered our practices and systems, many of which we are still using today. They're leaders, they're pathfinders, they're visionaries. And in many cases, they're still all of our mentors, and they built the very foundation that we stand upon. And so we owe them a debt of thanks. And so I'm thrilled that everybody in the audience and in the listening audience were able to be here with us today to celebrate this great event. In the midst of everything that's going on in this great agency, and for those of who are joining us from the outside, going on within your personal lives, you still found time to come to today's ceremony, and it just gives respect and shows respect to the work that these individuals have done and their legacy of excellence that they have left behind. And so may the stories that you will hear about them as we go through the ceremony today continue to inspire all of us. I know that protocol has already been established, but I did want to recognize a few very special guests. And so, again, our Vice Director, Mr. Ted Case, a very long and distinguished career of his own. Thank you, Ted. Command Master Chief Bromstad. We like to call him Richard Gere, looking good in that white Navy uniform with chokers on. And then I wanted to highlight Lieutenant General retired Greg. And so I just ask you to stand for just a second if I could. An incomparable logistics officer, served our nation for 35 years, raised through the ranks from private to 3-star general. And he served in the 70s and 80s as the Joint Staff J4, Lieutenant General Lyons' current job, and the Deputy Chief of Staff of the Army Logistics G4, Lieutenant General Pegues' currently job, for those of you who know him. And by the way, he just celebrated his 90th birthday a few weeks ago. Let's give him a round of applause. Looking good, sir. Also like to recognize Major General retired forever President Pete Proctor. He was our Army's 46th Quartermaster General, Commander Defense Supply Center, Philadelphia, now Troop Support, and our DLA J3. And he's also a member of the 2005 Hall of Fame. Round of applause, sir. Thank you for coming. Certainly, my lovely wife, Myra, thanks for coming. All of our Tier 3 SCSs who often don't get recognized at ceremonies like this. Would our Tier 3s in particular please stand, our executives for the agency? Please give these ladies and gentlemen a round of applause. Thanks for what you do. Thank you. and all of our SCSs in general. Thank you for providing the continuity as the military members come and go. And then to our MSC commanders and directors, please stand. Major subordinate command commanders and directors all made it today. Please give them a round of applause. Absolutely outstanding. Thank you. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to recognize some of the family members that are in attendance for some of our inductees. And I warn you in advance that Major General Gaskell brought an entourage, right? The entire Major General Gaskell entourage. And so son and daughter-in-law, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Gaskell Jr., with their daughters Rachel, Ariel, and Mariah, thank you all for coming today. Daughter and son-in-law, Marlon and Cheryl Foster, with their daughter Avis, and I understand their son Julian was not able to make it today. So thank you all, and the rest of his entourage for coming. I also have to recognize certainly Mr. Willie Williams and Stacy Williams, who are personal friends of Myra and I. We all graduated from the real HU, sir, Hampton University, back in 1983, and Willie has a very distinguished and long career of his own, and so thank you very, very much for coming. I'd also like to recognize Major General Gaskell's special guest, Ms. Shirley Bryant. Ma'am, thank you for coming out today as well. Thank all of you for coming, and give the Gaskell entourage a round of applause. Thank you. And Ms. Donna Davis, her family is here. Her husband, Mr. Xavier Villarreal, who is a logistics management specialist here in the J3. Their daughter and son-in-law, Matthew and Allison Patterson, with their daughter, Amelia. And then Donna's son, Justin, is here with his friend, Ms. Carmen Chung. So let's give them a round of applause. Thank you all for coming today. In addition, we have Miss Lily Mae Brown's daughter with us today, Miss Lillian Brown Greighton, with her husband Chuck and their daughter Josie. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. And we have several other DLA Hall of Fame inductees with us today. Mr. Don Shykoff, class of 2001. We have Mr. Bobby Parsons, class of 2005. Brigadier General retired Dornick, I believe, made it in. Ma'am, are you here? She was supposed to make it. I guess she didn't quite. Maybe she'll join us later. Class of 2006. Mr. Jeffrey Neal, class of 2013. And Miss Mary Studevant, class of 2016. And so to all of our DLA Hall of Famers, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. So to other distinguished visitors, fellow General and Flag officers that I may have missed, to all of our DLA senior leaders, all of our DLA family members, ladies and gentlemen, most of all our DLA employees, I'd like to begin my remarks today by recognizing this as a very significant milestone. And the milestone is that this is our 20th year of the DLA Hall of Fame, our platinum anniversary. And so Lieutenant General Glisson, the DLA's 13th director, began this tradition in 1998 to honor the very best of the DLA workforce. And so today we will induct 5 more game-changing members, bringing our total number of inductees to 111 since the Hall of Fame's inception. So this is an historic year. These 5 inductees collectively serve for a total of 162 years of federal service and 73 years of service to DLA. If we add these to the years of those previously inducted into the Hall of Fame, we'll have a total of 3,562 years of federal service and 2,413 years of service to DLA within our Hall of Fame. I'm sure you agree with me that that is unbelievably impressive. A ceremony like this is an important one because it gives us an opportunity to preserve our history, to promote our values, and indeed to celebrate excellence, because that's what our Hall of Famers represent. The stories of our Hall of Famers reminds us of what selfless service to our nation is all about. And so as we honor our inductees today for their leadership and their accomplishments, This celebration is also about an inspiration and motivation to all of us as we look forward to the next 57 years of DLA. And so that brings me to this year's Hall of Fame inductees. Today is about them. And so let's get on with recognizing their wonderful achievements. Ladies and gentlemen, earlier I mentioned the National Football League Hall of Fame, where this year they will induct as one of its inductees Randy Moss. Many of you all remember Randy Moss played for 14 seasons as a wide receiver with the Raiders, with the Vikings, with the Patriots, and others, and he amassed a career total of 982 catches for 15,000 yards and 156 touchdowns. Impressive indeed. But give me Lily Mae Brown. She is special on several levels because of her courage in the face of racial injustice and gender inequality. Lily was a systems analyst at Defense General Supply Center, now DLA Aviation. In 1974, she filed a complaint with the Equal Opportunity Office alleging gender-based discrimination. Lily risked her career to file this claim, but her courage allowed 6 fellow employees to say, too, that they faced gender and racial discrimination. Her 1977 court victory in a landmark class actions case transformed the agency, resulting in positive changes in hiring, training, awards, promotion practices across DLA, and I would indeed say the Department of Defense. According to a former DLA Aviation Equal Opportunity Director, Mr. Harold Mangas, quote, "Many sit here today because of Ms. Brown's strength, her courage, and her resolve to end discrimination in the workplace." And so Lily Mae Brown passed away in 2006, but her influence still reverberates throughout this great agency and the Department of Defense. We can thank Lily and pathfinders like her for our strong people and culture plan that we have and for our comprehensive EEO practices within this agency. Let's give Ms. Brown a round of applause. Absolutely awesome. The NFL will also induct this year Brian Dawkins, which some of you fans may remember, who played for the Eagles and the Broncos. Any Eagle fans out there? I'll give a little deference to the world champions there, a few Eagles fans. And he played for 16 seasons, 224 games, and recorded 37 career interceptions with 513 yards and averaged 100 tackles every year throughout his career. And so that's pretty good, but give me Donna Davis. I'll take that Hall of Famer. She started as a GS6 administrative assistant and ended up as the deputy director, executive director for material policy processes and assessment directorate in the J33. Her career path took her upward, but also across many different offices and directorates within the agency, mainly because of her leadership skills, her competence, and she was in such very high demand. In many ways, her career was like that of someone in the military, where she never stayed in the same job for more than about 3 years. In many cases, Donna was requested by name to lead a team or head a project because she had earned a reputation for getting things done. Her leadership philosophy was, if you treat people well, they'll do amazing things. And so that sounds pretty familiar to me, because I've always said, if you take care of your people, the mission will happen. Well, Donna said it first. And so our Deputy Chief of Staff, Mr. Helian Flowers, shared some memories of Donna. And as a leader, he said that she was absolutely fearless, that she balanced a strong emphasis on mission success with taking care of her people. And so you can read the details in the program about her career with the Defense Contract Management Agency, her role in the development of DLA's executive information systems, her leadership in enterprise business system program implementation, and her time as chief of DLA's logistics research and development team. Donna was a key leader for this agency and contributed in so many different ways. Her career was unique, it was amazing, and it would be very, very difficult for anyone to duplicate. Let's give Donna a round of applause. Thank you very much. And so for some of you, shall I say, very mature leaders in the audience who remember football back in the 1960s, the NFL will induct the guard Jerry Kramer, who anchored the offensive line for the Green Bay Packers for 11 seasons during the Lombardi era. He played in 6 championships, 5 of which the Packers won. That's okay, but I'm more impressed by Major General Robert Gaskell, who served the Defense Logistics Agency as Deputy Director from 1978 to 1981 under Air Force Lieutenant General Gerald Post, our 6th DLA Director. General Gaskell is an important link for us because he counts among his mentors, Lieutenant General Andrew McNamara, that name might sound familiar, and Carl Kabizman. And so he is truly a link to DLA's very beginnings. Major General Gaskell retired from the Army in 1981 after nearly 29 years of service that included service in Korea, Vietnam, and Europe, as well as assignments as Deputy Commandant of the Army War College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and commander of Letterkenny Army Depot in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, a place that we still provide support to this very day. Major General Gaskell arrived at DLA during a time of transition for the agency and for our nation. With the recent end of the Vietnam War, the services were transferring essential missions to the agency. DLA was expanding its support mission in Europe in response to the Pentagon's concern about the Soviet Union, and all of this took place as the agency faced increasing budget restraints. Boy, that sounds pretty familiar. It sounds like today. Major General Gaskell brought both executive leadership skills and technical logistics expertise to the table during his time as the Deputy Director in a time of great change. He, along with the Director, led this command team through many challenges and cared for 47,000 people. We have 27,000 today under this command, and it prompted Lieutenant General Post to write, and I quote, "You will long be remembered for your successful efforts to improve the stature and morale of the workforce." And so you see, General Gaskell, you are remembered, and your legacy will be preserved in the DLA Hall of Fame. Thank you for your service. Let's give him a round of applause. I think everybody knows Ray Lewis, and he's going to get inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame, and we all remember him as the Baltimore Ravens linebacker. But even with his franchise record, 2,643 career tackles, I'll take Larry Glasgow any day of the week. And so Larry radiated an attitude of complete customer focus in DLA logistics operations during a time of significant change in the first decade of the new millennium, and an attitude that was contagious to both his workforce and all of his colleagues. And as the DLA Logistics Operations Executive Director for Customer Operations, he practiced and instilled in others the idea that DLA's support to the warfighter is always number one. Boy, that sounds like our warfighter first motto today. He culminated his distinguished career serving as the Deputy Director of Logistics Operations and Readiness. Throughout his time in the J3, he kept the focus on building relationships with customers while exceeding, not just meeting, exceeding their expectations. And so DLA Logistics Operations Deputy Director of Operations and Sustainment, Mr. Michael Van House, said of Larry, I quote, "Logistics operations today is very customer focused. And I think a lot of that came as a result of Mr. Glasgow's influence," unquote. Larry and his team established customer account managers, national account managers for the military service, and he was also key to establishing performance-based agreements with all of our military services. And as a forerunner to our current global posture line of effort, Larry and his team played an important role in contingency support, both for Afghanistan and Iraq, and in domestic disaster relief operations in Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. He was also key to DLA's response to the base realignment and closure efforts in 2005 and of the Army's big up-armoring effort program that took place for Iraq in the mid-2000s. These were hot issues for DLA at the time, and Larry was well known to be cool under pressure. And for his great work in infecting the DLA customer-focused attitude. And that's an infection that I hope that we will never find a cure for. Larry Glasgow deserves to be placed among the elite DLA alumni in the Hall of Fame. Let's give him a round of applause. Also being inducted into the National Football League Hall of Fame is linebacker Brian Urlacher of the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears. He played for 13 seasons and amassed 1,229 tackles, 22 interceptions, and 41 brutal sacks, if you all remember Brian Urlacher. He was a force to be reckoned with, but I'll take our final inductee, General Gustav F. Perna, any day of the week and twice on Sundays. General Perna still serves his nation as the commander of the Army Materiel Command, Redstone, Alabama, and he has the distinction of being the only former DLA leader of any service to become a four-star general or admiral. However, we're honoring him today for his work in DLA as a commander for Defense Supply Center Philadelphia, now Troop Support, from 2008 to 2009, and for his service as the executive officer to Lieutenant General Robert Dale, our 15th director of DLA. And so after 35 years of military service and having served with countless senior leaders, I know of no one personally who deserves recognition more than General Perna. During his command at Troop Support, then Brigadier General Perna oversaw incredible successes, including the pre-positioning of building materials and relocatable buildings in Afghanistan months ahead of the 2009 troop surge. He held DLA troop support assistance to FEMA in the aftermath of two massive hurricanes. He also led DLA support to U.S. government assistance to victims of an overseas outbreak of swine flu. General Perna accomplished a great deal, but he was also a people-oriented leader, and he continues to be to this very day. Troop Support Chief of Staff Bob Ratner said of General Perna, and I quote, "His vision, his focus on the warfighter, and his unwavering commitment, and his value of his most precious resource, his teammates and his people, will have an unwavering, unparalleled, and everlasting impact on Troop Support Agency." You can read more in the program, but suffice it to say, his impact was huge, and he certainly deserves to be in the DLA Hall of Fame. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I would just ask you, for all of those inductees, one more collective round of applause, please. I will close by adding that the 2018 Hall of Fame inductees make us all very, very proud. The success of this great agency over the past 57 years can be attributed directly to the actions of these remarkable individuals. Last fall, our senior leaders and I came up with a statement for why we come to work every day and why every DLA employee does what they do. The resulting statement was not a new idea. In fact, it's a thread that has run throughout our agency from its very beginning. It connects one generation of DLA professionals to the next. It's at the heart of our mission, and it allows us to work not just for a paycheck, but for a cause that is much greater than ourselves. We came up with a wise statement of to serve the warfighter and our nation. And so today's inductees help lay the foundation for that principle. Thank you to our inductees. You inspire us, as do all of the 111 members of our Hall of Fame. And thanks to everyone on the DLA team for what you do each and every day. May God bless all of you. May He bless our great agency. And may God continue to richly bless the United States of America. Thank you, and Warfighter first.
Thank you, sir. Would Command Master Chief Brumstead please join the director in honoring our inductees? It's now my great privilege to present the 5 newest members of the DLA Hall of Fame. They will be inducted in alphabetical order. Our first inductee is Ms. Lily Mae Brown. Ms. Brown is being inducted posthumously. Accepting on her behalf will be her daughter, Ms. Lillian Brown Gritton. Lily Mae Brown was not just a true leader, but also an icon in General Supply Center history. In May 1974, she filed an EEO complaint alleging gender-based discrimination, not knowing she would be thrust to the forefront of what would become a historic class action EEO complaint against the Secretary of Defense, the Director of the Defense Supply Agency, and the Commander of the Defense General Supply Center. The suit was settled in 1977, and what followed was a 10-year period of significant progress for minorities and women. Thanks in no small part to her courage and determination, progress continues to be made towards securing equal rights for all DLA aviation employees. Ms. Brown also played a key role in developing a standard barcode symbology for DoD, which improves speed and accuracy in depot operations. Ms. Brown retired in 1994 after 27 years of service, and her legacy and impact will live on for generations. Ma'am, would you mind stepping to the, thank you.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you for bestowing this honor on my mother. I am pleased and very proud to accept it on her behalf. You know, not having worked at the DLA, I can't really speak to the details of her career while she worked there, but I thought I could tell you a little bit about her character, the character that led her to take the actions that she did. My mother had a very deep and abiding interest in equal opportunity for all. And some of that stemmed from the culture of the times in which she lived. I remember a story she told me that when she applied for a job before she came to work for the DLA, and she was rejected because she was, or at least she was told, that she was too well dressed and too well spoken for a colored person, and therefore unacceptable. Some of her interest stemmed from the fact that she really believed that every person was precious in God's sight. And she believed in the biblical exhortations to open your mouth for the mute, for the oppressed, and to seek justice. And she attempted to do that as best she could. And so she took actions such as becoming an informal freedom rider. She rode buses to combat segregation. She petitioned the local school board to get better textbooks for an African-American school. She registered a great many people to vote, and she drove them to the polls so that they could exercise that newfound right. You know, her belief in fundamental fairness and equality for all even extended to areas that I think many would deem inconsequential. And one was my selection of toys. When I was a little girl, I wanted a Barbie doll, and so I asked for one. My friends had one. I thought it was a good thing to have. And when my birthday rolled around, I didn't get it. My mom gave me a Midge doll. I didn't know who Midge was, and none of my friends did either. And after a period of time, I asked her, I said, "Why Midge? No one knows who Midge is." And she didn't answer me directly. What she did instead was to ask me a series of questions about my interactions with Midge. But all the questions really had one theme, and they amounted to one question. Could you use Midge in the same way that you used Barbie? And the answer, of course, was yes. There are almost no differences between the two dolls. They're made by the same manufacturer. They wore the same clothes. There's only one difference. One had blonde hair, the other had red hair, and I think Midge had freckles and Barbie had none. But this was my mom's way of teaching me about subtle bias. She wanted me to understand the challenges that she faced here and that others faced here. But more than that, she also wanted me to consider carefully who I included and who I excluded in my activities. So when in 1974, she filed a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Office, she wanted those who made employment decisions to also consider carefully who they included and who they excluded in their hiring, in their promotion, in their training practices. She wanted to make the entire process more equitable, more fair, and more inclusive. And she was so happy when, the case expanded and it became a class action suit, and was thrilled with the consent decree, which led to a lot of improvements here. It was a very long and difficult process. It sounds pretty short when you look at it, and it says it started in 74 and the consent decree ended in 77. But the truth is, I remember all of those years ahead of time when she was making sort of internal complaints. And it took my entire childhood, from elementary school to college. I hope that that inspires you, actually, to be consistent, to be persistent, because think of the changes that you might bring with that. I know that she would be thrilled to receive this award today, but I think what would really make her happy is to realize that she has made a difference and that she has helped to improve the quality of this organization. I thank you and God bless.
Our second inductee is Ms. Donna L. Davis. Will Ms. Davis's spouse, Mr. Xavier Villarreal, please join Ms. Davis on stage? Donna Davis served DLA with distinction for 32 years, beginning in March 1981. During her time in the DLA Corporate Performance Office, her team designed and implemented DLA's Executive Information System, the first enterprise-wide use of statistical process controls and trend data. Later, in the Business Systems Modernization Office, she oversaw operations that led to the Enterprise Business System. Her contributions to the EBS effort culminated in the role of Chief of EBS Organization Alignment, where she successfully oversaw the transition of more than 5,500 employees across DLA to new business units, roles, and jobs. Ms. Davis then took her process-oriented skill set to DLA Research and Development, where she oversaw development of new sealing technology for MREs, improved small arms protection for fuel tanker trucks, and use of RFID technology in issuing uniforms at recruit depots. Her accomplishments reflect a lifetime of dedicated support to DLA and its customers.
Hello, everyone. No joking today. Have to be serious. Jenna Williams, thank you for hosting this ceremony and your kind remarks. It means a great deal to me. To the DLA executive leadership, the entire DLA team, it's a big organization. My family and friends, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day today, because time is, the most important and treasured thing, one of the most important treasured things we have. For Michael Scott, Mike, my sincere thanks in nominating for me as an inductee, and I'm truly honored to be selected as a 2018 Hall of Fame inductee. Keying off on what we just heard, it was a tremendous culture shift when I came from Department of Labor and the executive branch to DLA in 1981. So I listened to your comments quite carefully, and I appreciate your mother's efforts. So it was like a foreign language immersion with the acronyms, no office automation. I felt like a fish out of water. I couldn't understand why supply, if we're supply, why couldn't I get scissors, things like that. So, I really couldn't. So, or tape. Anyway, it was a challenging transition, and I was really unsure if I was going to stick with it, to tell you the truth. But the difference, always the key difference, are the people you meet. People help one adjust, they help one assimilate, friendly faces, people willing to share, help, teach, people with pride in DLA's mission and the warfighter focus. I found that in DLA. I loved its people and our work. I owe a debt of gratitude to all. Of specific note to thank are my family, friends, DLA friends and coworkers, and influential leaders along the way. And there's too many influential leaders, and they are all at all levels of the organization. But to my family, because family first, for their unwavering support, who love me unconditionally, good and bad. I'm a blessed person for these individuals in my life. Thanks to my husband, Xavier, who is known by Taco to the DLA community. My father-in-law, Pete, who is not here, and to our daughters, Cassie and Andrea, who are also not here because they just couldn't be here today. My forever loves, Allison, Emmy, no, it's silly Nana, and my son-in-law, Matt, and Emmy, of course, and my son, Justin, Carmen, and Piper. And many of you probably know who Piper is. She's our dog. Okay. Allison and Justin sacrificed the most for any or all successes I'm being lauded for today. This induction is really for them. My twin brother, Don, who has been stuck with me longer than anyone else, is here with his wife, Judy, and I knew her, before they met, actually. I knew each other. But together they bring it all: love, laughter, family, faith. Very important people in my life. And I thank them for being here. I love you all very much. Friends who've heard me the friends who are here today, they probably heard me talk more about DLA and my work career than they ever wanted me to ever talk about. Letitia Click, she's a longtime family friend. Along with her husband, Pete, we've traveled together. Our kids have grown up together. Thank you so much. Ty and Ken Carlson. Ken isn't here today, but Ken and I went to high school together. We didn't know each other, though, because he was too cool for school. And we reconnected later, and I know Ty, I'm friends with his wife, Ty, and go GMU. So I have GMU family here. So I thank you for being here today. Coworkers and friends, lasting friendships that extend the boundary of just being DLA teammates. Linda and Paul Axe. Paul was in the comptroller shop. Linda, I met in 1981 as General Gaskell was probably leaving the agency, because I do remember about General Gaskell and General Post. So Linda and I started in the Depot Operations Division. So she was in a different branch, and we've been friends ever since. And she's also part of the GMU family. Tim McClenahan, we went through, this is like boot camp. We were together. We worked together in a number of jobs. We worked on tough projects together for Miss Jill Pettibone, who I'll talk about later, when we were in the Corporate Performance Office, and later for Christine Gallo. Linda and Tony Paleo, Mr. and Mrs. Paleo. It's really good to see you. We all started around the same time too, basically, in DLA. They're our neighbors and friends, and thank you so much for coming up from South Carolina for this. We miss you. Dennis and Michelle Carr, they're part of our Air Force family friends, DLA friends. Dennis works in J8. Michelle worked with me every day for the last part of my career in J3 logistics operations. It's great to have you in our lives. Ken Ross, Kenny, where's Kenny? Kenny, love you too. So he's probably my best friend. I was single for a long time. He was like my person that I could talk to about everything business related. Our kids were around the same age. He made me laugh. He fed me caffeine before briefings, and would meet me at the snack bar when I was all like, all a mess. So he's instrumental. We produced the 1998 and 1999 strategic plans working directly for General Glisson, and have been friends ever since. He's allowed me to use unfiltered language and not judge me. And Tim and Ken kept me sane, and that's why I'm talking a lot about them. I love them both. I love you all. For significant bosses, Jill Pettibone, and Jill, would you stand for a minute? Jill Pettibone is a former executive SES at DLA, and she was instrumental in she worked in contract management, so she worked in DCMA before it was DCMA. So she's got a huge, long career and contributions for DLA. And she also started the EBS effort at the very beginning, at the grassroots. So I wanted to call her out because she was so instrumental in my life. So there's a couple of senior leaders that I want to highlight. Jill Pettibone, Kathy Cutler, Mike Scott, and Steve St. John, who isn't here today, but I want to mention him. These leaders provide a vision, knowledge, free reign to work and achieve success. They're fearless. And they definitely gave me enough rope, not to hang myself, but gave me enough rope to where we were all successful, and it was better for our customers and for our mission. And so very key people. So Jill, I'm going to circle back to Jill. I worked for her for about 3 tours, I figured out, in contract administration or contract management, corporate performance office, and the business systems modernization / enterprise business system office. I just want you to know you're an incredible leadership and personal influence. So now I'm going to cry, but thank you. For Steve St. John, I just want to say on the record, I owe him a beer. Okay. For all the familiar and friendly faces in the audience, what stories we could tell. Don't tell them today, but you can tell them any other time. I have fond memories of all the hard work we accomplished in DCMC, the Corporate Performance Office, or DCMA now, the Enterprise Business System Gang, long 6 or 7 years. My research and development friends, who I love dearly, was a great experience. And many parts of DLA that made us more efficient and better able to support our customers because, I always thought, never forget who you're working for. And that's not necessarily about your boss, it's about all the people that are around you and you're working for. So I thank you, I salute you, and may God bless you. Thank you for this honor.
Our third inductee is Major General Robert C. Gaskell, U.S. Army retired. Would Mr. Robert Gaskell, Jr. please join his father on stage? Major General Robert Gaskell's 29 years of distinguished service culminated in 1978 when the U.S. Army and then DLA Director Lieutenant General Post identified the need to assign an officer of General Gaskell's qualifications as the agency's deputy director. With the nation recovering from the Vietnam War, there was an abundance of excess repair parts and other supplies to be dealt with, and the newly christened DLA was quickly adapting to a rapidly expanding mission portfolio. General Gaskell's exceptional leadership skills and technical logistics acumen were more than equal to these challenges. Using lessons learned from Vietnam, DLA realized its essential role in feeding, clothing, providing medical supplies and consumable repair parts to our military forces, and supporting retrograde operations. General Gaskell will long be remembered for his strong leadership and unrelenting drive for excellence, as well as his successful efforts to improve the stature and morale of the workforce.
Let's give him one more round of applause. So a little bit off script, but just bear with me for a minute. I was going to ask our great J3, General Johnson, to join me on stage. He doesn't even know what this is about, but I think it's appropriate. And so back in 2014-15, the Department of Defense authorized military officials to present the Vietnam Pin to Vietnam veterans. You all heard in General Gaskell's bio that he served during Vietnam, and he's authorized to wear that pin, and on the back of it, it says, "On behalf of a grateful nation." And so many of our Vietnam veterans did not get the recognition that they deserved or the welcome home that you see with the troops returning from Iraq and Afghanistan. And I just wanted my J3 to join me with General Gaskell in presenting him with the veterans pin from Vietnam. So if you'd assist me, Mark, I'd appreciate it. You get on one side, I get on the other. Very good. I'll put it on and you pin it. There you go. And if you would, give us a... Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, Team DLA. First of all, I need to express thanks to my friend General Pete Proctor, for nominating me for this honor. He didn't get much help from me, but he persisted. Back before the Defense Supply Agency and later the Defense Logistics Agency were born, I had the distinct privilege of being mentored by General Andrew T. McNamara. This building is a tribute to his long logistical service to our nation. And later, I had the privilege of being mentored by General Woodrow Wilson Vaughn, who also was a former director of DLA. And sitting among you today, I had another mentor. His name is General Gregg, Arthur J. Gregg. I obviously needed a lot of help. When General Williams called me to tell me that I'd been nominated and approved by him for this high honor, frankly, I was amazed. I was also very grateful because having had the kind of mentoring that I had received, to be elevated to a senior logistics assignment at DLA was far beyond what I had anticipated as part of my military service. I thoroughly enjoyed my tour of duty here. It was my last tour of duty. Fortunately, I was supported by family, some of whom are here today, and special friends who are also here today. I would not be here as part of this ceremony if it had not been for you. And now, as I look to the future of those who wear the uniform, I am comforted and I am proud that we have folks following in the footsteps of those who are sometimes referred to as graybeards, like General Williams. He's not a graybeard yet, but he's following, some say in our footsteps, but I think he's sprinting. I want to thank all of you for coming out for this ceremony. I think I'm going to sit down.
Our fourth inductee is Mr. Larry M. Glasgow. Mr. Michael Scott, Deputy Director of DLA Logistics Operations, will accept on his behalf. Larry Glasgow joined DLA in 2001, became Deputy Director of DLA Logistics Operations and Readiness in 2006, and briefly served as the organization's director before his retirement in 2008. He led missions for both Operation Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom, and expedited delivery of more than 18,000 sheets of steel to up-armor Army-wheeled vehicles in Iraq and protect warfighters from IED attacks. Within 48 hours of Hurricane Katrina's landfall, he deployed agency personnel to support Joint Task Force Katrina, where they provided 29 million MREs, 17 million commercial meals, and 1.5 million liters of water. Finally, Mr. Glasgow oversaw the agency's execution of the 2005 base realignment and closure recommendations, through which DLA assumed retail supply operations at 14 military service repair depots. Throughout his time at DLA, Mr. Glasgow was key to modernizing business practices and posturing DLA for future success. Mr. Glasgow is not able to be here today, but he provided recorded remarks, which we'll watch now.
Good morning, my fellow DLA teammates around the world, and happy Thursday or Friday, depending on your time zone. First, I'd like to acknowledge and thank Lieutenant General Darrell Williams and his team for my selection and induction into the DLA Hall of Fame. Thank you so very much, sir. You and your team honor me. I am sorry that I'm not able to attend today's Hall of Fame ceremony, but as this video is being shown to you, I am currently out in California and Nevada at Lake Tahoe, attending a family reunion planned over 2 years ago. I am grateful and humbled by this recognition and induction into the DLA Hall of Fame. I consider this recognition to be one of the more significant honors in my life. And I must, in all honesty, admit that this day would not be possible without the support of my wife, Deborah, and a significant number of DLA teammates. And I want to emphasize that this day and the selection is not due to any heroic efforts on my part, but because of circumstances and timing associated with individuals that I worked with and for during my tenure at DLA. I'm going to go out on a limb and hopefully not offend anyone when I share with you the names of individuals that I believe make this recognition possible. I know I'll probably not mention everyone I should, and if I don't mention your name, please accept my apology in advance. First, I'd like to acknowledge the great military leaders I worked for while at DLA. Vice Admiral Keith Lippert, Lieutenant General Bob Dell, Rear Admiral Ray Archer, Major General Lauren Reno, Major General Pete Proctor, and Major General Benny Williams, a great group of officers who challenged and inspired me every day of my DLA life. Second, I'd like to acknowledge my J35 and J4 front office staff that provided outstanding support. Angela Ross, Debbie Reese, Renee Roman, and Colonel Susan Junker were there when I first arrived. Renee was followed by Colonels Eric Smith and Susan Galante and Lieutenant Colonel Karen Wells. And Colonel Junker was followed by Colonel Lenny Petrucelli and Kim Huntley. I could not have inherited a better front office staff. As most of you may remember, DLA J35 was a far-flung organization located all over the world. We had LNOs, NAMs, and CAMs, over 100 customer service reps positioned throughout the world. I worked very closely with all of these individuals, and some of the names I fondly remembered as I wrote this speech were Army NAM, Colonel John Klotzko, Navy NAM, Captain Walt Wright, FMS NAM, Colonel Selden Vonderhoff, Air Force NAMs, Colonels Don Micheletti, Mike Van House, and Tom Bronze, Marine Corps NAM, Colonel Steve Brzezinski, and Army Colonels Keith Jones and Keith Cadalin, and Bill Bennett at DLA Central, and Army Colonels Dave Mentis and Paul Abel at DLA Europe, and Army Colonel Chris Iskra at DLA Pacific. These individuals were a joy to work with, and every one of them were true professionals and gave their all to support the military services. While the team of professionals I just mentioned were actively engaged with our military customers, we had a group of individuals led by Renee Roman, J.J. Miller, Dan DeVincentis, and Don Neary, who were focused on ushering in new customer engagement, state-of-the-art processes, and technology under the banner of CRM, our Customer Relationship Management, a committed, dedicated group of CRM apostles. Near the end of my tenure, it was determined that combining DLA J4 and J3 would better serve the military services. This transformation to J34 created an opportunity to team and work closely with yet another group of outstanding teammates and consummate professionals, Bill Button, Kathy Cutler, Mike Scott, and John Hall. It didn't get any better than that, a group of professionals committed and operationally and customer focused. So you can see I worked with an outstanding group of professionals, and it is because of them that I stand here today receiving this recognition. Again, I am very grateful and humbled by this recognition, and I proudly accept it on behalf of my wife, Deborah, and my tremendous teammates from J35, J4, and J34. May God bless you all. May God bless DLA. And may God bless the United States of America. Have a great day, and go Purple.
Our fifth and final inductee today is General Gustav F. Perna, U.S. Army. The DLA Troop Support Commander, Army Brigadier General Mark Zimmerly, will accept this honor on General Perna's behalf. General Perna is being inducted into the DLA Hall of Fame for his outstanding leadership as commander of the Defense Supply Center, Philadelphia, from July 2008 to October 2009. Under General Perna's leadership, the diverse DLA workforce in Philadelphia achieved more than $13 billion in sales, $61 million in inactive inventory reductions, and increased material availability across 4 supply chains. General Perna led the center's effort to position building materials in Afghanistan 6 months ahead of increased troop levels during Operation Enduring Freedom. His strategic thinking resulted in the placement of more than 3,700 containers of basic building materials in the theater of operations. He also institutionalized the monthly Troop Support Civilian Employee Retirement Ceremony, recognizing the important role that civil servants play in supporting America's warfighters. General Perna was not able to be here today, but he sent a letter to the DLA director, which I'll read. Dear General Williams, please accept my thanks and gratitude for my selection into the Defense Logistics Agency Hall of Fame. I'm humbled to hold an esteemed place in the agency's lineage and honored to be recognized among those who have contributed so much to defense logistics and material readiness. To be named among logistics professionals whose legacies span from feeding troops during World War II to managing sophisticated global supply chains is especially gratifying. It is my firm belief that recalling our past and listening to our predecessors holds an important place in informing our future efforts to support our nation's armed forces. As I look back on my time at Defense Logistics Agency headquarters and troop support, I owe much credit to the workforce who coached, mentored, and trained me as a colonel and brigadier general. That guidance and direction gave me a true foundation in supply chain logistics and contracting. I owe my success at Defense Logistics Agency to the employees and leaders who supported my efforts and courageously challenged the status quo. Together, we made a difference. From anticipating the needs of deploying warfighters to answering the call for humanitarian aid, I will always be proud of the missions we accomplished and the lives we positively impacted. My thoughts are with the entire Defense Logistics Agency team as I join the Hall of Fame. For me, this honor is a collective effort that reflects the dedication, hard work, and ongoing commitment to our nation's warfighters. Again, thank you for this honor. Sincerely, Gustav F. Perna, General, U.S. Army. This concludes the formal part of the Hall of Fame inductions. Would Ms. Davis and General Gaskell please join General Williams and Command Master Chief Bromstead at center stage for a group photograph? Ladies and gentlemen, please join me. To commemorate the 20th anniversary of the DLA Hall of Fame, we're inviting Ms. Davis and General Gaskell to join General Williams and Command Master Chief Bromstead in a ceremonial cake cutting. Before we conclude today's ceremony, General Williams has one more announcement to make.
So thank you for, I know it's been a long morning, but well worth it. I think you all would agree we have 5 unbelievably deserving Hall of Fame inductees. One more round of applause, please. The 2018 Hall of Fame inductees certainly inspire us, and I'm delighted to announce a new award that will further serve to inspire us and honor the highest achievers in our organization. Ladies and gentlemen, our founder, Lieutenant General Andrew T. McNamara, was an innovator. It was his vision that shaped what we are now as the Defense Logistics Agency. And so try to imagine the scope of the challenges he faced in 1961, harnessing cooperation between the military services, other burgeoning defense agencies, each with their own ways of doing business, to create an entirely new organization. It seems incredible now, but through his enforceful leadership and determination, he stood up the Defense Supply Agency, and he completely changed the game. And so I believe that that spirit of innovation is alive and well today in the Defense Logistics Agency. And so we want to seek out and honor one individual each year, former or present, civilian or military, who has made a singularly transformative impact on the Defense Logistics Agency's operations and culture, or who has permanently and positively impacted the agency and its mission. To do that, I have approved the establishment of the Lieutenant General Andrew T. McNamara Icon Award. The J1 is currently working with the Army's Institute of Heraldry to design the award, and you can expect the initial nomination call by July of 2019. The inaugural presentation will likely take place at our ball, the DLA ball, in 2019. And so I think that that is very exciting news. And so, General Gregg, I must admit that much of the idea from this award came from the award that was established in your name within the Army about the most competent logistics officers within the Army that is presented once a year on your name. And as I stood at the ceremony last time at the presentation of your award, I thought about this great agency and the many, many, many joint logisticians, both military and civilian, who have passed through the doors of this agency, and we would like this to recognize just one person each year that exemplifies the iconic and transformative ideas of our first and former director. And so we have that to look forward to. Again, thank you all. Thank you, Kathy. Back over to you. May God bless all of you. May God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I invite each of you to a reception immediately following the ceremony where you can personally congratulate these new inductees and their families. Now, please rise and remain standing for the departure of the official party. Then please wait for your row to be released. On behalf of the Defense Logistics Agency, thank you for attending today's ceremony and helping us make this a special event for our deserving inductees.